Alright guys, so this is Josh coming back to you from Midnight Auto Repair. And I wanted to do a little bit of a filter comparison, mostly because I hear a lot of half-truths and wrong information about the NAPA Golds, and I'm going to compare them to their counterpart, the Motorcraft FL500S, which is a popular filter. But stay tuned. We're going to see what's going on with all of this here. Alright guys, so today we're going to compare these filters, and I want to thank everybody who's been watching my Restore and Protect the Sludge Oil filter and the comparison stuff. I really appreciate it. I want to thank you. And in doing that, because today is kind of a crappy day outside, I decided that I would design an experiment where we actually test out the Manhummel NAPA Gold filter, the PGI NAPA Gold filter, and then we were comparing it to a Motorcraft FL500S, which obviously for Ford guys, you know that that's kind of your exceptional level filter from the factory. I know a lot of people hold Ford Motorcraft stuff in high regard, so that's what we're going to do here. Now, what I got is, this is a Manhummel NAPA Gold. So it's 7502. This fits a lot of Ford stuff, but its most common application, it seems, is, what was that, like 11 to 19 Ford Mustang with the Coyote motor. And this is the one that I pulled all of these off the shelves. These are all fresh inventory. I didn't order any of these online. None of these are potentially counterfeit. These are all pulled off of a NAPA shelf. And what we got here is, you can always tell your Manhummel NAPA Golds because they will say it right down here in the bottom corner. And, you know, this box has been sitting on the shelf for a while because, what was that, about 6 months ago, we changed suppliers and went to PGI, which is Premium Guard. And, you know, so of all the stuff I hear about all these filters is that, so now they're not made in America anymore. They must be trash. They're made in Vietnam. They're made in China. Blah, 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 blah. They're not made by Wix anymore. You know, guys, put in the comments what you guys have always thought of this stuff. Because, I mean, for the longest time, everybody has always associated a NAPA Gold filter with being, it's just a Wix filter with a different label on it. But that's not true. The big thing about the Wix filters is NAPA has not used them since 2016. So, you know, what you guys have been getting from 2016 until about, I'd say, October, November of last year has been made by Manhummel. Which, I mean, it's not a terrible filter. Remember, everything with NAPA is based upon a standard set by NAPA. So, Manhummel has to build these things to NAPA specifications, which means that they have to be as good or better than the filter they replaced, which obviously was from Wix. Now this one here, you know, you can see the writing on it compared to the Premium Guard style is, you know, it's a little bit bigger. It's got kind of a different font to it. And you can see the newer ones, they have NAPA 100 year. Changed a little bit of stuff there. Mostly just the same pictures. But you'll notice this one does not say Manhummel because it's not Manhummel anymore. So, we got, you know, the same basic advertisement stuff. But the big thing you're going to notice is that when we open these filters, you are going to see the country manufacturer is going to be drastically different. So, we've got our 7502 PGI. We've got our 7502 Manhummel. As you can see, the Manhummel has a sticker on it. Black sticker. Comes around. And the biggest thing is, it says right here, Made in USA, 7502. Outside's pretty standard, you know. It's got a rubber nitrile sealing ring there. It's got a silicone anti-drain back valve. It's got the manufacturing date and serial number on the top of it. Other than that, nothing really spectacular to look at. And then we have the PGI NAPA Gold, which obviously you'll see this one here says made in Vietnam. And that's when people start getting a little sideways about the gold filters, is that they believe the moment they change from made in USA to made in Vietnam or made in China, huge difference, piece of junk, blah, blah, blah. And that's not the case. I'm actually here to make the case for these because it's still a NAPA Gold filter, and that's kind of the main point of what I'm trying to get to. And this one actually has a lot of improvements that this one does not. In fact, when you hold them in your hand, there is a big weight difference between the two of these. So I actually have a little scale we're going to break out, and we're going to weigh them, and then we're going to weigh the filter media and stuff like that. But what makes this different, this video different from other videos, is that since I do work for NAPA, I have access to a lot more of like sales reps and information than, you know, maybe some of the other guys in this space do. And I'm not trying to make this a regular thing, but if you guys want to see me cut open oil filters, I'll happily do it. But what I want to explain to you guys is that these are NAPA Gold filters, whether you get the Mann-Hummel or you get the PGI. So you're still getting a great filter. In fact, both of these filters here, we have our Motorcraft, the 500S. I'll break it out just to show you guys. You know, we've got our Ford 500S. You know, meets all their specifications. But the interesting thing about the 500S that you guys may not know, or some of you guys do, depending on who, you know, who's paying attention. But out of all of these filters here, this one is 80%, or was that 80% efficiency at 30 parts per million. Or no, sorry, 80% efficiency at 20 parts per million. And then this guy here, which is the Mann-Hummel NAPA Gold, which is good. This guy is like 90, what was it? It was like 92 or 93% efficiency at 30 parts per million. And then we get over here to the one that everybody kind of dogs on right now. And this one here at 30 parts per, 30 parts per million, this is 99% efficient. So this filter here is designed to go a 10,000 mile oil change because it's designed for efficiency over flow. So it's designed to catch a lot more particulate than this guy here or even, you know, this guy here. And what I'm saying is all three of these are great choices. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to break out the scale, get everything set up, and then we're going to weigh each one of these. I'm going to mark which one's which. That way you guys can keep track of what I'm doing too. So hang loose for a minute. All right, guys. So I'm going to break out the scale. I made sure I wrote Mann-Hummel and PGI. That way we can keep track of what we're doing here. Now, the one thing I do know, because I went through and read all the product information for each one of these and talked to sales reps and other stuff, because I wanted to find out as much as I could. So guys, I'm going to break out the scale here in a minute, but I want to kind of go over some of the specs with this. This is your factory OEM style. So what was that? 80% at 20 microns for efficiency. What was this? 93% at 30 microns. And then this one is 99% at 30 microns. So this one, solid contender right there. But the thing that you'll notice is the weight of these. The Mann-Hummel and the Motorcraft, they're about similar. And then you pick up this PGI NAPA Gold. This thing's heavy. Now, in the information I was reading, the case is 30% heavier and it's 50% thicker than this one right here. And I'm going to show you guys. But the idea is I want to show you that this one here not only compares to its predecessor and exceeds it, but compares to kind of what everybody considers a gold standard filter for Ford products. All right, I think you guys should be able to see the readings here. So what we're going to do first is we're going to start with the factory OEM Ford style 500S. We're going to put it up on the scale and just see what it comes up at. It's telling me that it's 289 grams, which we got baseline. We have a good number. And just to prove to y'all, the scale is calibrated. Throw it on there. There's a secret about a dollar bill. It weighs exactly 1 gram. So if you're calibrating, you know, a scale for like food service or anything else, technically, that's your weight right there. And then we have for our Man Hummel NAPA Gold 261.5, which, well, you guys can see it's actually fairly lighter than the factory Ford filter. And then we're going to grab this chonky boy here, the PGI, 309.8 grams. So, as you can tell, there's a lot more substance to this. Now, we're going to cut everything apart, and we're going to go through and find out where the substance is on this. So, stay tuned. Alright guys, so we're back. I've got all these cut open. And now when I cut them open, I haven't pulled them apart yet. I literally just went until they popped and put them back up here. So, you're going to be seeing everything the first time just like I am. So, first we're going to grab the 500S because this is what we're using as our gold standard filter. So we're going to pull it off. First, we're going to check the end cap on this thing, which obviously rubber nitrile seal, plenty pliable, pretty hefty base plate. And we're going to weigh all these base plates with the O-rings in position just the way they come off. So I am going to bring the scale over here, and we're going to see just how heavy this base plate is. So 109.4 grams is the contained weight of this base plate from Ford. What I'm going to do is pop that over here real quick, and then we're going to check the other ones just to see. So 109.4. Then we have the Man Hummel NAPA Gold, which also rubber nitrile gasket, plenty pliable, holds in there pretty well, nicely grooved in. What we're going to do is see how heavy that one is. That one's just a skosh heavier at 109.7. Put that back up here for a second. And then we are going to grab the PGI NAPA Gold base plate. Now the cool thing about this one is this is the only one that had plastic covering the end of it, which I actually kind of like. Keeps some moisture out, does good things. The other thing that's kind of cool about this one is that this seal, wow, that was hard to pull out of there. This is not nitrile rubber. This is silicone. So do with that what you will, but honestly, silicone, better at resisting heat than nitrile rubber. I would say probably makes a little bit better a seal. And then the base plate on this thing's pretty stout too. So, see if I can't slide this guy back into its hole. That fits in there tight. That's going to be one of the ones that doesn't stick back to the oil filter housing. But let's see what we got here. So, 122 between 2 and 3. I'd say 122.3 is where it's staying. So, this has the heaviest base plate. Now, the holes on the PGI as compared to the FL500, you know, I'm going to say pretty even. You know, I'm not one of those big hole guys whenever it comes to oil flow, because it's coming through here at between 25 and 60 psi. It's going to come through one way or another. Now, the other thing I see on the PGI versus the Ford filter is that you see our threads on the Ford filter are only like 2 or 3 deep, and these ones are like 5. This thing's on there and threaded well. And then what we're going to do is we're going to grab a Man Hummel. And the Man Hummel is very similar to the 505 or the 500S. Now it's got about the same 3 or 4 threads. The holes are very similar between the two. If you look at them, if you squint, they're pretty much the same part. But it's amazing that the Ford end cap, or the base plate, ended up being the lightest out of the group. So we got that. We got, let me see here, put that guy there, and put this guy here. Now we're going to move on to anti-drain back valves. Because, well, I mean, obviously, they're colorful, they give you something to look at, but most importantly, they maintain oil in the filter if it's in a position where it could drain back. So, Ford 500S, we're just going to pull that off of the anti-drain back valve, which on Fords is always at the end. But this one here, it's not anything spectacular. It's silicone, pliable, nice and good, as you would expect from a premium OEM filter. And then what we're going to do is we are going to grab the Manhummel NAPA Gold. Same thing, silicone, plenty pliable, good quality rubber, or not rubber, but silicone. We're going to put that there. And then we have the PGI silicone, which, yet again, it's a little bit of a different design because this one's actually designed to sit down in the filter itself. So it seals really nice. It's very pliable. So, I mean, there's nothing that's bad here. I'm not going to tell you guys that one is better than the other because they're not. They're all silicone anti-drain back valves. They're all fantastic. They all work good. Proven track records. Now we're going to start to get into the meat and potatoes of the deal. Because we have now our 500S filter. And we're looking at it because obviously you guys have seen these things cut apart on YouTube before, but we're just going to kind of inspect it to the other two. And the thing that I find interesting with these is that, you know, besides the drain back valve being on the end, because it's kind of really meant to just immediately circulate oil whenever the pressure's wrong. I think, it's like 10 or 11 PSI variance. But what we're looking at on this is kind of the quality of the pleating. Now this is, like I said, good quality oil filter designed for 10,000 mile oil changes. What was it? It was blended cellulose is what it was called, cellulose and polyester. But the thing I see interesting on this, though, is the spacing gets kind of wonky on this. Not only that, look how high up the adhesive is running both into the filter media and up on the end cap. You can really see, I mean, you know, I give them props for gluing these end caps on as tight as they do, but, you know, when your quality control is that, not really impressed with that. And obviously on the bottom, Ford, no anti-drain back valve because it's down here. Now we're going to find out. This one has, yep, just a basic leaf spring retaining spring. Sits in there. I mean, nothing to write home about. It does its job. The big thing that I'm concerned with is just how much glue is riding up into that media. But for what it's worth, let's see what this filter weighs. Now remember, with this filter, the anti-drain back valve is metal, so this may actually weigh more. But we're at 108.9 grams for this. So that's our baseline. Next up, we are going to grab the Manhummel NAPA Gold filter. And then when we look at this one, you see pleating's actually a lot more even on this, a little spaced out here. But you know, the one thing you don't see, you see a little bit of glue kind of hanging out in the end cap, but you notice it's not riding all the way up into the filter media. It's well adhered. Now remember, this filter media has a efficiency of, what is this, like 93% at 30 microns. So good quality, actually higher micron than the Ford, you can see a little different color, but that don't mean nothing. Now what we're going to see here is the Ford, $109, and then the Hummel NAPA Gold, 81.4. And like I said, the big difference you're going to run into is the anti-drain back valve being built onto this one makes that end cap very heavy compared to the NAPA Gold. And then we are down to the PGI NAPA Gold. Oh, hold on. I almost forgot to show you that with the Hummel filter, you also get a stamped leaf spring. I said nothing fancy, functional, nothing to write home about. And then we come to the PGI NAPA Gold filter. And what I want you to see is it's not glued like the previous generation where the seams are glued together. This one is actually crimped, which I feel as though it's a little more of a firm attachment. You'll see the other thing too is you won't see any wonky or misspaced pleats. This thing is very even, very consistent. And the other thing that you'll notice too is that when it comes to the glue itself, it's all very evenly distributed. It's not trying to come out onto the material. The end caps are very firmly placed on. The other thing I like about these is actually having the anti-drain back valve built into the base here, because it does still allow whatever media will flow oil through it to flow oil through it. It won't just go into a direct bypass, kind of like this thing here. This will allow it to go into a direct bypass because it'll literally just bypass right at the beginning of the filter. These guys here, this one's got like a little bit of a different design. I don't think it flows as well as this style does. But yet again, both great filters. Just happens to be that this one was put together in Vietnam and this one was put together in America. Both good quality. Obviously, you can see anti-drain back valves are placed in there nice and tight. The cool thing is if you can see down in them there, you know, they're very similar designs as far as where it comes out. But we got that, and then to bring it home for the PGI, look what we got. We have an actual coil spring, which holds good tension on there, good consistent spring rate. You know, it's not like a leaf spring where, you know, it's stamped. Sure, it'll move a little bit, but not a lot. This is actually designed to hold the filter firmly to the end plate. That way your anti-drain back valve can be sealed off properly. So we got these apart. The last thing I wanted to do was I wanted to show you guys. So we've got all these filters are cut in the same exact spot. So we're talking even height here. So for the 500S, the actual end housing, because, you know, that is 50% thicker and 30% heavier, we're going to see how the casing weighs up. So for the 500S, you are looking at 58.9 grams. For the Hummel NAPA Gold, 58.76. So very, very similar. And then, yet again, I mean, when you go to bend these things, there's just a world of difference. The PGI housing is just so much stiffer. 88. So 87.9, 88 grams. So 58 versus 88. You know, I've had what was that, the K&N, the white filters cut apart. Now I've done it for racing. As you guys know, I do performance stuff. This housing feels very similar to like a 1001 K&N filter, the one that has the little white nut on the bottom of it. So, I mean, I would use this on a hot rod application as well, because I would not have any doubt in my mind that this filter here, or that housing, isn't going to burst. But I'm going to move the scale, and I guess I'm going to, sum this up. I'm not trying to say that any of these are bad, or any of these are, I'm not trying to dog any one of these. What I'm trying to say is, all of these filters are great at what they do. Some just happen to be better than others. And whenever NAPA makes an improvement, I know I've heard it before in other videos. I know, what was that? Royal Auto Service. They ended up having a video where they got very unhappy with Manhummel, and then they actually got to talk to their reps and found out that the PGI filter is a very, very good filter. In fact, it is better than the previous generation. And that's, I guess, what I'm trying to sum up with this particular video, is that when NAPA Gold filters, whenever NAPA gets a filter, it's made to NAPA specifications. It's not just some cheap Chinese filter. It's not a Fram, orange can. It's not some no-name filter. Premium Guard is a very well-known company who makes a lot of good filters, even, in-house for other companies. They're highly regarded because I believe Motorcraft is made by Purelator, if I remember right. So these are all made by mainline, well-known companies. And as you can see, even just looking at the three together, obviously we've got our imperfections on the Ford. We have our previous generation NAPA Gold, which is good. We have our current generation NAPA Gold, which is even better. Obviously we've got a silicone base gasket versus nitrile rubber for the Manhummel, and then nitrile rubber for the Ford. We have our anti-drain back valves, which for the Premium Guard is silicone, and it fits down in there. For our Manhummel NAPA Gold, just locks up on there, and then for our Ford 500S, just locks up on there too. These are all fantastic because they're all silicone. They'll all stay pliable even when it's really cold, really hot. They won't distort. You won't have to worry about anything. When it comes to our spring retainers, the PGI Gold is the only one that actually has a genuine coil spring. Whereas when you get to the Manhummel, NAPA Gold, and even the Ford filter, you have a stamped leaf spring. So there are things that are very premium about the new Premium Gold, the Gold filter. But the big thing about this especially is being able to be made in, like Vietnam, being able to be made in China, and wherever else these factories are. They're all certified. All of this stuff comes down and gets all specifications met and constantly tested. And that's a big thing with these. The other thing is the availability of the NAPA Gold filters through PGI is 99% VIO, which is, vehicle availability. Whereas, Ford, obviously, this filter will fit a bunch of stuff, but they mostly want you to retain it with Ford stuff. Previous generation, they had improved the availability to be able to get filters, especially for a lot of these modern applications. So to sum this video up, this filter is better than everything else here. But everything else here is a darn good filter too. So I'm just kind of pointing this out. That way, when you see made in Vietnam on this one versus made in USA on this one, I love American-made stuff. I want to see more of it. But if I'm getting a good quality product that's made overseas, I'm not against that. I mean, who doesn't have, some fancy item that came from like Italy or the UK or Japan? I mean, hey, a lot of guys like JDM cars, a lot of guys like domestic cars, muscle cars, stuff like that. As long as it's a good quality product, I don't see a problem in where it's made, as long as it does its job competently. So I hope that out of all of this, you guys learned a thing or two, and you got to actually see everything cut open properly. But if you have any questions or you've made it this far in the video, I appreciate that. Any questions, drop them down in the comments section. I'm always happy to answer and let you guys know what I know, if I know anything more. But for the most part, let me know how I did, whether I can do it better, whether you want to see this again with maybe a different set of filters. I'm always happy to do stuff like that. But guys, this is Josh from Midnight Auto Repair saying I hope you learned something. If not, at least entertained. And have a wonderful day. I'll catch you on the next one.